Peanuts, huh? All right. What's up, everyone? This is Jason Tucker. This is WPwatercooler, episode number 106. Today we're talking about WordPress security best practices. Let's go around the room here and get everyone introduced. We almost have a full house. We go in alphabetical order, and we're going to start with Chris.
Chris Wigman, I work for iThemes, doing the iThemes security plugin.
Very nice. How about you, George?
My name is George Stefanis. I work for Automattic, and I am the team lead of Jetpack when I'm not doing core stuff or contributing to help out the community.
Very cool. Joseph, how about you?
Hey, I'm Joseph Herbrandson. I work with Sucuri Security, and I do research and customer service, so I deal with a lot of security issues, malware infections on a day-to-day basis.
Very cool. Kalen.
Hi, I'm Kalen. I am a freelance WordPress developer, and I do a lot of work building themes and plugins for clients.
Awesome. What about you, Rob?
I'm Robert New. I work at WP Sitekare, and we're working on a theme shop called Flagship right now. So there's that.
Very nice. How about you, Say? And she's muted.
Oh, no.
Which is how we like her.
My dog is like doing weird things. I'm
Great
Siri.
success!
I have a great success. I'm Siri. I said that like 4 times now, and my name is Say. And my Twitter handle is @SayReadMedia. I do stuff with WordPress, and I talk on this show. Yay! Bye.
So cooler.
So cooler.
And how about you, Steve?
I'm Steve Zehngut. I'm the founder of Zeek Interactive, and I run the OC WordPress meetup.
Very cool. Suzette.
Hello, everybody. I'm Suzette Franck, and I am a front-end developer at WebDevStudios, and I just released my very first plugin called Pinkify. It's super useful.
It is super useful.
It's super useful, yep.
I'm Jason Tucker. You can find me, Jason Tucker, on Twitter and WPmedia.pro. Wow, that's the first time I've ever had that for my intro. That's awesome. We usually skip my intro altogether.
We've got some heavy hitters today.
We do. We totally do. Exactly. So, how many of you folks do security work? Show of hands.
Every day.
Every day. All right. So,
Define security work.
Yeah, let's talk about that. That's a good question.
Well, I mean, we work with WordPress websites, obviously, and WordPress websites have a ton of different older vulnerabilities, and clients that aren't privy to the information that we have are using those, and they're getting infected, and they're getting infected by automatic bot attacks, and they're sending out spam and other types of malicious activity all over the internet just from hitting those sites. And a lot of those people come to us, and people will call, email, come to us on chat, and we'll have to work them through those issues.
Really, Joe, what's the worst that could happen?
Well, really, the worst that can happen is actually not really that your website gets destroyed or that you release all this data into the wild, but you could have a cross-site scripting vulnerability that's on your website, and a family member could come to your website, be social engineered by this minor vulnerability that's being exploited by a hacker, and give access to a family member's computer or empty out your own personal bank accounts because they were actually able to social engineer you to give up your LastPass password or something like that.
So not much, then, right?
Yeah. No, it's just day-to-day issues.
You lose the trust.
So you're telling me my grandma can get hacked by my own website? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we actually hear some of those sad stories, every once in a while, and it's kind of part of dealing with these issues.
Those stories are every once in a while, but the less once in a while, more frequent stories are ones where you are blacklisted from Google.
Definitely.
Or you lose your whole site content because there wasn't a good backup and things like that. So even though that's like the extreme of bad situations, there's still a lot that happens, that's not as extreme, that's still super detrimental to your site.
Well, both of them. I mean, all of it, it's trust. If it's your family's website and you hack grandma, well, grandma ain't gonna trust you on her with probably going to your website anymore. If it's your client, I mean, it's all trust.
True.
What if your family just doesn't trust you in the first place?
You're lucky.
That's a whole different podcast.
Okay, when did we turn into the Jerry Springer show? Was that like 3 months back?
And Kalen, what are you working on?
What time is it? I gotta go. No, just kidding.
5 o'clock somewhere.
I do a lot of work on one-off themes for clients, so I do have to try and build with security in mind, since we're basically handling the whole front end of the site, and then a lot of work in the WordPress dashboard as well.
Expand on that. What do you mean build a theme with security in mind?
So there's lots of things that you can do. Actually, if you look at WordPress VIP, they have good standards set in place if you want to put a theme on their VIP. Things like escaping all output when building the theme. Yeah, that's a big one for them, and something that people don't normally do in themes.
So, for our audience that has no idea what you just said,
yeah.
What is escaping all output?
Escaping all meaning, really, is what we just said.
Basically, the double underscore with the parentheses?
Something like that. There's actually quite a few.
Something like that, but not at all.
Just write that. Just write that in a post, and that'll totally count. That'll escape everything. You won't get hacked ever.
Go ahead.
Double underscore parentheses. You're good. You're here first, folks.
That's translation, not escaping or
Escape
your output, sanitize your inputs.
Okay, so I'm serious. Let's talk about these.
Wait, what are you doing to your output?
Steve's been doing it wrong for years.
No.
You might want to take notes, Steve.
Somebody's got to play the everyman on this show. Come on, let's have it.
I mean, the essential thing is to remember that when you're echoing anything out onto a page that you don't know is completely trusted, and say, quit making eyebrows at me, I can see you.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's not a simple thing. You need to think about it. If you're echoing something onto HTML, you're going to use escape HTML. If you're echoing out into an attribute of an HTML tag, then you need to use escape attribute or escape URL. There's so many different ways to do it. It's all contextual depending on how you're using it. Security is not easy, but if you miss it, damn well if like doing ads.
So,
hey, let's talk about security for people.
Real quick. Real quick. So if I'm just getting the theme development and I want to learn this stuff, is there a page about this that you're talking about, George?
Absolutely. There's a couple, both on the Codex, and I'm sure there's a couple else up on like vip.wordpress.com and several others talking about best practices.
Great. Perfect. All right, go ahead, Say.
I have a page that I use for security. The page I use is in the plugins repository, and it's something like wordpress.org/plugin/wordfence. That's the page that I use as my security.
Otherwise called WordFence.
You're mentioning WordFence.
Yes, WordFence.
Okay.
I'm a recent convert to WordFence. Because I used to think that my clients and their sites, they're trying to be all self-explanatory or self-using, that they couldn't handle that stuff. But WordFence is actually super. You just install it and it's there, and it tells you, what's going on, and it's like a really nice, easy to use, mellow plugin that doesn't do crazy things and scare people.
So what are some of the other?
To be mellow.
So what are some of the other plugins that we could use then?
But hold on, it's not totally mellow because it does email all the time saying problems found with your website, and then all it is like a plugin needs updated. But every time I read it, I'm like, oh, and then I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine.
So since we mentioned one plugin, like half the folks on this panel here make a plugin that do some type of security.
They do.
They actually do. I mean, we
have
can
plugins.
start far left and work our way to the right, and all
What's
of them
it called?
except for you and me, Steve. Chris, what's yours called?
I have iTheme Security. A few more downloads still than WordFence, and it's actually WordFence is our biggest competitor, direct competitor.
George, when's it going to be in Jetpack?
We're hoping that.
Let's ask it differently. George, is Jetpack secure?
Jetpack is secure.
Have you double underscored all of your?
I have double underscored almost. I've even escaped the outputs as well. But I think what we're actually talking about is Automattic recently, about a month ago, acquired Brute Protect, which Brute Protect,
Yep.
which Sam Hotchkiss built up in Maine, along with a couple other folks. that's basically crowdsourcing brute force login attempts. Which
they should have called that plugin Popeye, because Brutus.
What? George, as you were saying,
because you feed it spinach and it works.
Brutus, the bad guy's name was Brutus.
But we're currently working on migrating the infrastructure across to the Automattic servers. And once we do that, we're going to drop it in Jetpack and ship it out to just seamlessly secure the logins of everyone using Jetpack. Brute force attempts are one of the most dangerous ways that someone could gain access to your admin. And I'm sure Joseph could speak volumes about the sheer number of people that use some of the most common passwords and how easy it is to, with 1,000 guesses, get into a lot of sites. So just tightening, hardening, and if 5 people try and get from 5 different sites, well, okay, let's shut it down for a bit and let's make sure they're not getting their way in.
Joseph, what about you guys? What do you guys got going on over there?
We have multiple layers of different security products, but we do have a free plugin that's on the WordPress repository. It's just the Sucuri Security plugin. It does auditing of logins, so you are going to get a lot of information about people that are trying to get in with those top 10, top 100 passwords. You're going to get some options to actually harden the interface or harden the back end so that it adds files that completely make it so that malware can't even activate in case you actually do get infected. But the big problem is that...
Do you guys hear yourselves?
Hey,
seriously,
look, I know these words are funny, but let's be serious here.
I know some of these words.
No? Why would we do that?
Hold on. The thing that's important, though, is when we talk about plugins is that everybody listening needs to know is that if you add a plugin to make your site cool, just adding that plugin doesn't make your site cool. You have to add security and actually invest in your security principles and understand them all. Otherwise, you're not even going to be able to. You're not going to have the same kind of comparable quality.
And then your grandma's not going to trust you.
Exactly.
Rob, what do you
Bring
guys
it back around?
Wait 1 second. Rob, what about you guys? What are you guys using over there?
I mean, as far as theme and plugin development stuff, we use PHP Code Sniffer to kind of help out as we're building things, and that'll kind of automatically check some of this stuff as you're working. I don't know if anybody's familiar with it. It's kind of a little annoying to set up and install the first time. But
security plugin that's super annoying and hard to install, that's silly. That never happens.
It's useful for a lot of reasons, though, not just security. I mean, if you have it configured correctly, you can have it check for all kinds of things, and the way that you're coding things will automatically warn you that your formatting's all screwed up and all kinds of other stuff that's fun.
I find that a lot of the security plugins out there are super duper helpful for developers, but if you're a user and you install even WordPress, I mean, except for the plugin updating, which is pretty self-explanatory, the information that you get back from these plugins doesn't mean a lot to these people. They're just like, great.
You're talking about a fine line between, there's a very fine line between usability and security, and that is one of the sweet spots of the plugins, and I know that's one that we're addressing very hard, as well as, Automattic buying Brute Protect. When you're talking about a usability point on a plugin, theirs is one of the simplest as far as what they're trying to accomplish. So there's a lot of ways to do that. It is one of the big weak spots, though. You're right.
I think really working on prevention as opposed to fixing something once it's done is really, especially for users, the best way to go. Like limit login attempts and like what you're talking about with the brute attack is great, because that stuff's protecting there for being a problem, which then you have to basically have some understanding of the back end and the inside of the site. You have to know that in order to even make sense of the stuff. So I'm really a big fan of those hardening your back end. Yes, I said it. First, and the hardening is good as opposed to fixing. You know what I mean?
So
I think that's really important.
There's 3 parts to security, too. There's protection, there's detection, and there's recovery. WordPress and myself do very good at the detection, but we can only do a minimal amount of protection within the app itself. If you already got to the app, you've missed a few layers. That's what security does really well. And then there's recovery, which Sucuri or Regina Smola over at WP Security Lock do excellent work at. So there's 3 separate areas to this.
I think people don't understand that at all because you hear the word security and you're just like, okay, it's secure or whatever. And I think doing more education on exactly that point you just made is really important. There are these different levels, and there are some levels that users can do. And then there's points where if your site's hacked and you've got, malware in it, if you're a user, that's not something you're going to be able to deal with by yourself. And you can Google all day long, but it's not going to make any sense to you at all.
So what's the first things that folks should be doing when, wanting to, lock down their site initially? Like the first thing that they should be installing before anything else?
Like a backup.
Yeah.
Taking a backup of their site. Number one thing.
I am such a huge fan of WordPress lately. I used to really be so into WordPress backup to Dropbox, but the restore from that is really kind of convoluted. And for users, again, for giving them a site and letting them run it themselves, WordPress is like effortless and amazing, and I just give all sorts of props to that. Thank you.
If anyone wants to give WordPress a shot, if anyone wants to give it a shot, if you go to vaultpress.com/try it, you can get a free month.
Nice.
Oh. It's super cheap. It's only like $5 a month anyway.
Right, and $55 if you do a year. That's the cheapest insurance policy out there. It's cheaper than an hour of any of our time. Like, and
sure, and with the higher levels when it's doing the daily security scans, it's actually doing those via SSH, so it's got to log in and scan your files. Because if it was just doing it via PHP, another plugin could potentially modify that, so it's like, everything's good, ignore all this hacking happening behind me. So by actually getting file system access, they can make sure there's nothing fishy going on behind the scenes.
That's really cool.
So I was also going to mention about backups. Hang on, I was going to mention about backups. If certain hosts will have that as well. So if you're with WP Engine or Pagely or something like that, they're just going to do it for you nightly.
Okay, those hosts will, but
check with them.
I said certain hosts.
Yeah, certain hosts, because you'll get, for example, like HostGator or even, God forbid, GoDaddy. They do backups of the site, but they're not doing backups of the whole site. So those are not reliable. They're not necessarily backing up your database. Those aren't reliable as backups. So even though they're there, that's nice. I tell my clients just that doesn't even count as far as I'm concerned.
That's like if
they're not reliable.
That's like if Al Bundy's your webmaster.
Yeah. You're like, cool, I suppose that might be useful. Really?
Oh, that's great.
That's what gets you, George? Al Bundy?
Really?
It's the flannel.
Oh, I missed it. Al Bundy, I get you. Good. 10 points.
All right, so what's next?
Suzette brought up a great point.
Wait, you mentioned limit login attempts. So
yes,
that's a good plugin to have.
Yeah, and a great segue into what Suzette mentioned, which was Clef. And Clef, you're seeing more and more even on auto installs. Like, so on SiteGround's quick install, they're allowing you to install Clef. And Clef is from Brennan, whose last name I can't remember at the moment. Sorry, buddy.
Burn.
There you go. So it's the two-factor login where you have to log in with your phone, which is a thing that you can do now, like with Google and such as well. So that not only limits your login attempts, that means if you don't have phone service, you can't get onto your phone anymore or your site anymore.
Not at all.
You're stuck.
All those plugins do it without. You don't need phone service to do it, and they don't limit login attempts. They just limit that ability to log in without the second device.
I was talking about on Google the other day. We were trying to. A client has two process login, but the office I was in didn't have phone service, so we couldn't do the login. So it was great.
Oh no.
I haven't had that problem with Clef or anything, but it was a specific isolated incident.
I was going to say, where were you?
The
office is in an old Boeing building, so it's like freaking like on lockdown in there. It's like it's like a secret agent cave.
All right.
Oh, it's not a secret agent or anything.
I was going to mention also.
Go ahead.
Go for it.
Oh, I was just going to say that if you have certain hosts, they take care of the security for you. So, like, WP Engine actually does not allow WordFence to be installed because it does run heavy. That's the one bad thing about WordFence is it creates a lot of database tables and it runs kind of heavy. So if you have a super good host, they take care of that for you. So limit login attempts would be a good one.
Those managed hosts, like WP Engine and Pagely, they are handling that, and that's why you're paying that extra fee because they're doing that. And then there's like the semi-managed folks like at SiteGround where they have all the extra stuff you can plug in. But I mean, for the most part, let's be honest, these users aren't GoDaddy.
Yeah, I use one called Google Authenticator for WordPress, and that one works pretty well.
So let's talk about hosts for a second. There's constant stuff that comes out. Like this week or this past week, the Shell Shock Bash thing has been going all around, right? If I'm on a semi-managed host or I'm managing it myself, what if I don't update my my Linux software? What happens then?
Well, it's not if they let them use system calls or not.
Wait, you're self-hosting on your own Linux server?
It's not my scenario. I'm just making conversation.
Hypothetically, if I was running my own dedicated server,
I don't know Linux, but I'm hosting it myself.
Well, it depends how you're running a PC. If it's running via CLI or not CL, CGI.
Different things.
So I mean, there are different configurations where it could be more or less vulnerable. But long story short, you done goofed.
Like right after a breakup, you're super vulnerable.
Okay.
I don't know.
I mean, this stuff happens all the time. I mentioned this one before that. It was the Heartbleed bug. I mean, this stuff happens constantly.
Yep.
The thing is, it's important, I think, also though, to explain to our clients, whether they're DIY clients or they're clients that we're managing. I think it's really important to explain to them that that's not just WordPress. That's the internet. You know what I mean? Like Heartbleed wasn't just a WordPress problem. That's the internet gets hacked. The internet has these issues. And
the entire internet?
Yeah, the internet. You know what I mean? All of the internet. So it's important, though, as far as client education goes, to explain that because, especially if you harp on security with a client, they start to freak out. It's like got the reverse effect, and then they're like, oh, well, maybe this isn't safe or something like that. But so I really just try to explain to folks that this is just part of technology. Stuff comes out, and then the hackers get into it, and then we fix it, and it's just a constant game.
Yeah. Okay, how do I address this? A client asks this, and I get this all the time. WordPress isn't secure. It's a hackable system. It's a hackable platform.
No. So is everything.
I know the answer to this. I'm just bringing this up because I get this from my clients.
WordPress has a massive team that is protecting it, but every plugin doesn't have a massive team to do code review. So if you have a client that has 50 plugins on their website, obviously there's going to be a problem because Automattic or the team that's behind, the massive team that's behind WordPress hasn't got to review those particular plugins. And if they're not checking up on their own software, that they're making a really secure system insecure.
And the fact of the matter is every single piece of software out there has bugs in it. Nothing is going to be perfect unless it's like one line that just adds a filter or something.
I mean, unless you wrote it, George, let's be honest.
Even WordFence, 2 weeks ago, the guy announced a 0-day vulnerability in it that, to their credit, WordFence immediately the next day shipped a security update that fixed every single issue that was brought up on it and has fired off another security update since then. So every single plugin, especially those that aim to deal with security, are going to have more scrutiny and they're going to find bugs in it because, you know what, code is produced by humans. But the really essential bit is to keep your stuff upgraded, keep everything up to date, and accept that if you don't want to get hacked, run a static HTML site.
So, okay, I want to reiterate the point you just said.
Wait, your static HTML site can also get hacked.
True. George, you just said something that's really cool here, and I want to reiterate that for our audience, is keep your code up to date. So
that's the most important thing you can do, whether you're talking about a phone or your OS or your website. That's the only way to stay on top of the game.
Anytime a plugin does a security update, update immediately because we deal with open source code. So if something is a security update, any hacker out there can look and say, oh, this is a security update. I can see exactly what changed, how to exploit it on any sites that haven't updated it yet.
Good point. Thank you.
That open source and the exposure of the flaw and all that. There was a bit back. What was that in? That was for MailPoet. Sucuri called out MailPoet on putting out not dealing with an issue or something, or not promoting it right away, and then MailPoet got all upset because security exposed the vulnerability before they had done the patch, and they're like, well, it's been out for like a week. So there was like this whole drama tussle about when should the when should a security company like Sucuri let people know what's happening, and when should they not, so that it can get fixed? It was a really interesting discussion.
It's a black and white situation. If you find the problem, it has to be disclosed. It has to be the public has to know. And when we contacted and we reached out to them, we let them finish and fix the code. Then we immediately disclosed. They wanted a big, long period of time where they could get people updated. But the fact of the matter was, even after a month of releasing the vulnerability and telling everybody, only 25% of people were actually updated. So it's a black and white issue. We need to get vulnerabilities out as soon as the patch is available.
Do you think the idea of having WordPress core push out updates that are very specific to security updates be something that might be beneficial?
Yeah, and they do. I believe that there are a number of plugins that WordPress is able to automatically update that if there is bad issues like that.
So when did that happen?
Contact WordPress.org and have them help you.
Yeah, that happened back in April when we had internally discovered a security vulnerability with Jetpack. We worked with them and we pushed out 11 concurrent point releases for every single version of Jetpack that was affected, so that we could. Or so that the folks over at WordPress.org could update folks to a secure version of their current branch without giving them newer, more recent stuff that they may not be expecting. So it's something that's done very carefully.
That happened automatically with the Jetpack, the update?
Yes.
Are there other plugins that have that kind? I mean, Jetpack's obviously an exception. Are there other
.org, any of the big plugins, that .org team will work with you on the big plugins to make sure that update gets disseminated as quickly as possible.
That's super cool. Yeah. I'm excited about that. That makes me happy.
So I make sure that all of my themes contain an outdated Tim Thumb script. That's
step one, right?
That's secure, right? I just want to make sure that's okay.
Which Ben has even said he's no longer supporting, and he should move and use Photon and Jetpack instead.
Ben of Tim Thumb?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Binary
I love it when plugin developers renounce their own plugins. They're like, I don't do that anymore. I don't talk to that. That's no good.
Yeah, you wrote a long post just to speak about it.
Just this weekend he announced it officially.
Cool.
That's great. That's kind of like Internet Explorer dropping support for Internet Explorer, or Microsoft dropping support for Internet Explorer.
Well, I was going to say, Internet Explorer comments in IE11.
What?
When they dropped conditional comments in IE11.
What?
Yeah, still didn't get it.
That's okay.
No, now we need to know. Sorry. Yes. You need to...
I was merely remarking, like when they dropped conditional comments from IE11.
Oh,
right.
I see.
Were they using a double underscore there?
Double underscore. Yeah. Good.
Full circle. Full circle.
But again, that's tangential, and back to the security.
The point is, right, and we all agree on this, one, this has to be something that is front and center of a concern for anyone who is using the internet, and obviously particularly WordPress. If you have your own site, you have to have some sort of security plan, policy, process, system in place. It has to be there. Otherwise, you're just playing with fire. And if you're on a shared server or any like that stuff, you're also playing with other people's fire because you could spread that and you could infect all sorts of different systems. So
WordPress is 23% of the web, and we owe it to the other 77% to do a damn good job of this.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah,
Such
definitely.
water.
Hey Joe, I'm gonna plug you guys for a second. What's the address? What's the URL of the blog of the Sucuri blog? Oh wait, I've got it. It's blog.sucuri.net.
Yep.
I just want to give a shout out. Sucuri is where I get all of my security information. Your blog is great. You provide good information that's not totally laden with jargon, but it has enough information to make good decisions. It's useful. It's on it. Like, I think your blog is like one of the top blogs out there.
Joe, do you
Thank you so
write
much.
on the blog?
I haven't posted any of my own articles yet, but now that I'm on the research team, I'm going to be getting a little bit more into that.
Now you know how awesome they are.
Sweet.
I get the platform now.
Yay.
Very nice.
Better blogging.
On that note, that about wraps it up for today. Make sure you go to the website at WPwatercooler.com and click on the subscribe button. If this is your first time watching us, thank you for stopping by and watching and listening and all of that. If you don't want to watch us and you just want to listen to us, you can also get us over on iTunes, so hit the subscribe button over there as well. Cool. Thanks a lot for everyone for being on the show today. You guys have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Wah, 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 wah. And we're still live.
And we're live.